Good morning, dear cluster community. It is an absolute pleasure to see you all here. Now that I have been to the clusters conference physically, it has given also me new angles to what clusters are really about. And before joining, all of the speakers have really been very joyous as well about having attended the event last week, which, as some of the speakers have said, has probably been the most successful clusters conference so far. And I'm sure that we will dwell on this a little throughout this clusters talks as well. My name is Živilė Kropaitė. I am a journalist with a Lithuanian public broadcaster, and I will be the moderator of this clusters talk. I will want you to take you through the takeaways from the European Cluster Conference, Green, Digital, and Resilient through Clusters. Takeaways from the European Cluster Conference that took place in Brussels last week. It was a big event, 2 days conference with 700 participants. We'll get more details and we will delve into content as well. Hello to all of you who are joining and who are saying hi and presenting the countries you're from. It is really, really nice to see you. We did all meet last week, but those who did not attend the grand clusters event should not be very much upset, because we are about to give you a very big, detailed, extensive wrap-up right now. We will hear the news from the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, so you're updated with all of the events and what's going on in the cluster world. We will have 2 key speeches from the Commission, and then we will hear from clusters. We will have a panel debate in which you will be encouraged to participate as well. And we will give you an overview of the funding opportunities that are available. So this is briefly the agenda for today. Zoom Q&A function is to be used to ask questions, the chat function to comment or share links. And normally, as you know, when the European Cluster Collaboration Platform is giving some piece of information or a link to register, that link appears in the chat as well. So do follow the chat, and then you'll be familiar with everything what's going on, and you will reach everything really easily. If you want to speak, however, not just type, do raise your hand and we will give you the floor. Do not note, as always, that the session is being recorded, and that the recording of the session, again, as always, as usual, will be published on the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. So these are the housekeeping rules, or the tech tips, as Chris, the other moderator, whom I finally met in Brussels live, likes to call it, housekeeping rules or tech tips. So I hope that everything's clear. And we will now move to a video, impressions from the conference. I will invite everybody to see the video right after the news from the European Collaboration Platform, which Nina Hopman of the European Cluster Community will present. Nina, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Živilė, and good morning, everybody. Happy to be here this morning and looking forward to following the takeaways from the Cluster Conference. Before we dive into that, let me just present some upcoming opportunities for you. First of all, there's the Clusters Meet Regions event in Graz, Austria, which we will hold on the 18th and 19th of June with the theme Tradition Reinvented. And we will talk about the shifts to climate neutrality, a digital future, and the European sustainability goals, together with clusters and representatives of the region, of how to do this. There's also a matchmaking event taking part of this as part of this Clusters Meet Regions, taking place on the 18th, on the very first day. And you find the agenda and all the background information online on the EUCC. So click on the link in the chat to find out more and to register. And talking about matchmaking, there are different internationalization opportunities. One is the EU-Taiwan matchmaking, taking place on the 10th to 12th of June in Berlin, in Germany, where we will welcome a delegation of 80 companies and trade organizations from Taiwan And we will offer matchmaking opportunities with special emphasis on ICT and digital industries, of AI, IoT, advanced manufacturing as well, smart mobility, then the green part, so circular economy, sustainability, renewable energy, as well as smart healthcare and smart cities. Deadline to apply is tomorrow, so the 16th. So if you have not registered yet and would like to participate, please register today or tomorrow for this event. Same goes for the self-med matchmaking. So matchmaking with countries from the Southern Mediterranean. You have the list here on the screen, including, for example, Morocco, Algeria, Egypt. And this will take place in Frankfurt, similar dates on the 11th to the 13th of June, bringing together the participants from these countries together with the European counterparts, focusing on green tech, digital, ICT, medical engineering, manufacturing, as well as pharma and biotech. Same deadline, as I said, so please register today or tomorrow if you have not done it yet and would like to meet new potential business partners from these countries. And in September, we will go to Canada, to Montreal, for a matchmaking taking place on the 10th to the 12th of September in the context of the AI event called All In, where we will have C2C, C2B, and B2B collaboration opportunities with a focus area of artificial intelligence, advanced manufacturing, digital technologies, and quantum technologies. The first cutoff to be part of this event is at the end of this month, the 28th. So have a look online for more details if you're interested in internationalization activities with Canada. Changing a bit the topic, moving from events to the Trend Universe, which is one of the ECCP services. It's a strategic foresight instrument which allows you to have a better understanding of what are future trends, what kind of impact they can have on your organization, and to find out where you're placed with your cluster strategy to keep up with the trends and to make the trends. This is available via the ECCP platform. You can also scan the QR code that you see on the screen. This is now open to all users from the EU that are headquartered in the EU. So have a look at it and find out how it can help you in your cluster development. And for the very last news item, I will hand over to my colleague Leonard, as they are also preparing something very interesting for you, and he's working on it. So Leonard, take it away.
Yes, good morning also from my side. With this, I want to give you a brief heads up that the new country fact sheets on cluster policies and programs will be published on the ECCP in the upcoming few weeks. And for those of you that have attended the European Cluster Conference last week, you probably might know that some insights of these cluster policy fact sheets were included in some of the presentations during this conference. So in brief, what's in those fact sheets for you? First, those fact sheets provide a brief overview on the economic policy context in which the respective cluster policy is embedded. They also outline the key industrial and economic strength as well as the cluster landscape of the respective country. They especially provide an assessment of the development, but also really the current cluster policies in the respective country. And also as a new feature, there is an analysis of country-specific recommendations from the European semester reports and how clusters and the cluster policy of the country can contribute to those recommendations. So there will be 27 new fact sheets for the EU 27 member states, but also 29 fact sheets for countries all around the world, which also includes the United States of America, which shows some really interesting developments in the cluster policy in the recent year. And here on the right side, just really briefly, a sneak preview from the French cluster policy fact sheet. There we analyzed the integrated national cluster policy of the Pôle de Compétitivité, which many of you are maybe familiar with already. So here one can say that France has a long-standing experience with cluster policy, and with its dedicated national cluster policy provides targeted support to clusters. And since 2023, we also see a focus on the transition challenges, since the policy has a strong focus, for instance, also on the green transition. And we see also that many of those competitiveness clusters target thematic priority areas that are linked with the green transition. But for more details, I would say have an eye open on the ECCP communication channels, as well as the knowledge section of the ECCP, where these fact sheets will be found in a couple of weeks. So that's it for the ECCP news, and I hand it back to Sevilla. Thank you.
Thank you. So to answer the question of Christine, who is saying, when will the country sheets be published? As you have just said, we have to follow what exactly, just to be clear.
Yes, so
Leonard.
there's no the specific date at this point. I would say in the next 2 weeks roundabout. So have a look on the ECCP communication channels, and on the ECCP there's a knowledge section which features all the publications from the ECCP, and there you find the cluster policy fact sheets.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Team ECCP, for this presentation, for the news. Let us now go to the impressions from the conference and see it in the format of a video.
And cluster organizations can help to align different types of policy instruments, from innovation to skills to infrastructure to regulation, to make sure that the sums of money we're investing are actually well spent and achieve the type of outcomes that we're looking for.
For us, resilience, it's all about trust and sharing.
Thank you. We've just seen Mariela, and she will be the one who you will see now as well, as we will hear from the Commission, and it will be two the most important cluster people in the Commission, Mariela Masseling and Marek Jor, who is her colleague, and they will give us more details, more statistics. It seems from the video that it was a grand event with so many people, with a lot of matchmaking, a lot of networking, a lot of presentations, a lot of communication. So let's see if that was true in figures as well. Mariela, let's hand over to you. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Many thanks indeed, with great pleasure. Now I should maybe say up front, the most important people, that's indeed my team who made that all happen. So really, really big congratulations. I mean, for me, I have to say it was my first cluster conference actually. And even though, I mean, I'm myself from a cluster region in Styria in Austria, but I found for myself that one has not really seen, you know, the full collective power, the wisdom and this positive energy that the clusters bring with them, unless you've been at the conference. So it was a super impressive and fantastic moment also for all of us. Also in terms of the figures, it was indeed very successful. I think it exceeded our boldest expectations. We had over 700 participants. We had several hundred matchmaking events. We had close to 60 speakers and 70 exhibition stands. Also, our Director General visited them, was very impressed to see the the important projects that clusters are advancing all over Europe. And actually, a funny side remark, but we had also participants from Canada joining us who looked somewhat jealously at this event because it appears that it is not something that they have yet. So, you know, we're inspiring others all over the world to follow our example. Yeah, indeed. Then I wanted to also share with you a few key takeaways in terms of what we have learned on the substance, so to say. And Marek will then give you more details on the sessions. But I think what was really an important point for us at this cluster conference is to make it as interactive as possible, and so to really collect and harvest the knowledge of the cluster community. And I think that was also, at least from what I heard during the conference, something that was very well received, that we had these interactive elements. Now, it was said very prominently in the conference, actually, by our Director General, Kerstin Jorna, that clusters are not a funding target, meaning they are not a project, but they're really an integral part of our single market toolbox. And I believe it was our commissioner who had provided also a video message to the conference, who was saying that clusters are really at the heart of our EU industrial policy. And what I take a bit from the exchanges that I saw there in these interventions is also that there is really an increased awareness and also recognition, you know, for the role that clusters can play in terms of regional economic development, in terms of fostering our industrial policy agenda. And in that sense, I think we can consider clusters really as a long-term strategic partner for public authorities. It was also said prominently on the panels that we need to foster more of these public-private partnerships. Then another important topic that we discussed was the role that the clusters play in terms of building value chains, so value chains across national borders. And this is something that is particularly important also for us in the European Commission, and that we want to foster with projects such as the Euro clusters, as you know, because we see that as an important element to, on the one hand, build our resilience and our business location in Europe, foster economic security, diversify supply chains, and create investment spillovers. Clusters also provide very important policy feedback to policymakers themselves. And I think there, the cluster conference was actually an excellent moment in time, so to say, to seek this opportunity, because we had not just our highest level management joining, but we had several units mobilized from DG Grow and beyond that joined the cluster conference. For example, the World Cafe sessions, where we harvested, you know, the collective intelligence of the cluster community. And we were also joined for the first time by members of the High Level Group for Competitiveness, so the council working party that is at the level of Directors General. And we had very fruitful exchanges with them as well. So it was really a moment in time, and for me, a takeaway is that it's something that we should continue and indeed do much more often, because it was such a great opportunity, and we should never stop, you know, explaining the benefits that clusters bring for implementing our industrial policy objectives. And how do they do this? Of course, they bring together businesses, they bring together regional authorities, research actors for scaling up, for technology transfer, and for knowledge sharing. And that came out also very prominently in the conference. Now, indeed, for the clusters of the EU, indeed, we see them, as we said, as a partner in shaping and also implementing our industrial policy objectives, so driving force behind the green, digital, and resilient transition. We also already spoke about building EU value chains, indeed, which is a core point. And we also had a very interesting panel exchange on the role that clusters can play in attracting investment, so being magnets for investment hotspots in Europe, because clusters, we heard it also in the videos, they build trust, which in turn reduces risks. They create knowledge spillovers, and they can build the relevant infrastructure for investors. Furthermore, we heard the role of clusters in pooling resources, economies of scale. And maybe last but not least, a very nice word to close, in the sense that it was said prominently that clusters do not only play a role in creating economic benefits, but they also create social value. So the notion of leaving no one behind was also brought out very prominently. And maybe just the last word from my side before I hand over to Marek. I think you might now wonder, we have all collected all this great information, this collective intelligence. What are we doing with the results? And as I said, I think for us in DG Grow D2, it is extremely important that we share this also within the Commission services. So as said, we had invited other units, other services to participate in the conference in targeted sessions, but we also write up the findings and we will share that horizontally throughout the DG. And we also want to really make an effort to keep up this momentum, this dialogue with policymakers. I think Kuba at the conference already mentioned the creation of an expert group in that sense. So we certainly want to keep the dialogue going and also connect with clusters, certainly outside. It's not limited, so to say, to the biannual conference. So many, many thanks for all your active participation. It was really a pleasure to see you in action.
Thank you so much, Mariella. Thank you for your happiness in your presentation. And we'll move over to Marek now, who will get into more detail.
Yes, good morning, everyone, and happy to see you, the ones who participated last week and the ones who couldn't have a chance to participate. We will try to do in more details the takeaways now. For 10 minutes, I try to go session by session. If I haven't covered all what was discussed, you can put it in chat, the people who participated, the people who were in the panels. But I want to mention that this European Cluster Conference was organized by the European Commission with the Belgian presidency of the Council of the European Union, with our colleagues from ASMIA who have the contract with, I want to mention this company because they did a good job, Forma. And I think all these people who organized it as well, where we used this opportunity to have colleagues from European Cluster Collaboration Platform. On the 6th of May, we've organized specific sessions, European Cluster Collaboration Platform on Euroclusters, partnerships, which will be actually very important for us to take lessons for the new Eurocluster call to be launched the end of this year, and on national cluster policies. They had as well the chance to warming up the whole European cluster collaboration with Antonio Novo, with Jan Kramer, with Teodora Zilkova, who just gave us overview and addressed the cluster community and the cluster community landscape. And then we had we were addressed by the opening of the European Commissioner, and I want to mention one quote of his speech, which is extremely important, because this quote is saying, "Clusters are at the core of Europe's industrial agenda." Clusters are at the core of Europe's industrial agenda, and I think we might repeat it very often, this quote. And then we went to the panel, high-level panel, with prominent speakers, particularly, Christian Ketters, which in the world of clusters everyone knows, Montse Daban, the president of the Council of European Bioregions, Bianca Montean, which is actually right now not only ICT cluster manager, but as well member of the expert group on the economic and societal impact of research and innovation in the European Commission, Mark Andres, representing the SMEs, particularly for Flanders, which is from Innovation Agency, and Andre Barbagelata, who is the SME counselor for the aerospace and long-term as well, CEO of Leonardo. So it was the panel. Next slide, please, which actually set the scene for the discussion. And I think it was very clear from what they debated that if you are in the cluster, you are more productive at the micro level, but as well at macro level. This was clear as well after the Jan presentation. Wherever you have clusters, well-clustered, dedicated cluster policy, then your region, and this correlates, has better GDP per capita, more research and development investments, more people employed in higher value-added economy sectors. So this was something that people in the clusters know very well, but it's good to hear this confirmation. But I think the most important message which is coming from this panel is that actually clusters should think more strategically. So that they should be regarded not as something like an element of business support organization, like that you can fund, but something which is embedded very much in industrial policy, but not only on industrial policy. It cuts across different policies from research, cohesion, and so on. So I think this mindset of cluster managers to be as well embedded very much in innovation ecosystem, co-create innovation ecosystem, something that as well, you remember some of you for smart specialization strategies when we were talking about quadruple helix, the clusters play this role of designing and then implementing as well local, regional, and national strategies. This was very clear. So the strategic relationship, the new types of public-private partnership between public authorities and clusters to deliver on the twin transition and resilience objective. And then very important element as we will move to the second panel on investment hotspots as possibility to have this treating clusters as a magnet for investments in the whole value chain creation. Next slide, please. And then in the next high-level panel, when we had Ole Jansen from the German Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs, Pierre-Alexandre Balland, professor at the Utrecht University, very well known for related varieties research, Isabel Grippa, Chief Executive Officer of Hub Brussels, representing the Innovation Agency from Brussels, Veronique Willems, who many of you know as a representative from SME United, and our cluster community, Krystyna Schermer-Knutte Aleś-Junieje. I'm sorry, Krystyna, if I always have problems with your surname, but the Vice President of the European Cluster Alliance. And this group has very clearly indicated the why actually clusters are a hotspot. Trust, critical mass and scope, collocation of competence, skills, infrastructure, all which elevates the risk of investments, of course. But then the very important was as well message, actually, you have all this new proliferation ideas for creating new hubs, valleys, and so on, while actually we have already existing actors and structures to attract investment, which are clusters. And whatever we are talking about, new valleys, hubs in the initiative, they are all working on the concept of clusters with all this what is here mentioned in the first bullet point. So clusters are the right place to leverage private investments with public funding. This is the place where investors are attracted and should be encouraged to attract. But as well, what is important is that we in clusters, members of clusters, improve the presence of financial intermediaries, these ones who know how to create business case in order to be viable, and boost financial literacy skills of cluster managers. This is something that is definitely needed. And in general terms, stability and reliability, this is what private investors want. So these were the main key messages from two high-level sessions. Next slide, please. And I will try to go now so that we can make time. Next slide, we have this collective intelligence, fantastic job done by our colleagues from European Commission. We went for green transition, which we have the inspirational speaker, Kirsten Dunlop from EIT, chief of the EIT Climate KIC, with very clear message that this actually, it's not only green, you need to look broader, it's more integrated, cross-sectoral, cross-border thinking. Green means digital resilience. And of course, this is not creating silos between green and digital. It's not possible, and you know it. It's all interlinked with each other. Long-term funding for clusters and companies as usual needed if you want to do really sustainable green transition. And we have on our website green transition platform on a European cluster collaboration platform as well, with good practices which all clusters, SMEs, national cluster policy can look at. But barriers, I mean, lack of long-term funding, climate change denial, there are still people who deny, mindset and reluctance to change. So collaboration is something that we know it can help. Capacity building and relevant services for SMEs, for example, like we have sustainable advisors from the EEN, European Enterprise Europe Network, and as well mindset. every job is a climate job, and not fight overcoming the mindset that no climate change. We still have people who still deny, and streamlined regulatory framework. If you want to make it happen, it should be simple rather than having on top more requirements. Next slide, please. And digital transition, you won't be surprised, it's very similar as barriers: lack of funding, tied to many conditions, lack of awareness, understanding of digital technology. I think here what is particularly important, the speed. So cluster organizations are the ones which have, and from Jan Kramer from the presentation, you saw that most of our, 170 IT clusters we have. So we have the IT supply solutions, but as well we have other thousands of clusters which are in other business, and making it all together, it accelerates definitely the whole process. But what is particularly important here is the speed in digital. The cluster managers are not even able to catch up with, and then hence the members of the clusters with the development. Even today, I heard about the giants from the US who are going finding new solution tools for AI. It was announced today. You can watch info. Really, the speed is incredible here, and I think we need to be more agile as well from the public policy point of view in order to help cluster managers to catch up with it. It's about awareness raising. It's about so that's why clusters were mentioned as the right sensors to monitor, because they know ongoing what is happening. So cross-cluster, cross-sectoral collaboration. Next slide, please. Resilience. Here, the trust is the main point. Trust, build capacity. We know, as you know, the example from before. Sorry, I wanted to mention Jens Verbeek from CEO Magix Technologies. He did a great presentation, but here it was Olga Shapova from Kharkiv IT cluster, who very much stressed the question of trust at the moment of crisis. They knew each other, or they knew the people who knew the others. The trust helped them survive. And here the speed needs to act and adapt fast to stay strong. And again, here, lack of funding, it comes across, horizontally, lack of skilled workforce, and capacity to be strategic and adapt quickly new solutions. And here, what could help? I think definitely what we need to work is, in each cluster, we should have contingency, mitigation, preparedness planning. What happen if something, if we have cut, if we have disruptions in value chains, inputs, outputs, like mitigation planning for clusters. We don't have it. We saw, I raised this question. There was only one cluster in the whole room of 120 people who said, I have the contingency plan, and one of Italian railway. Very good job. And I think it's a good example. We need to work on this. More collaboration among clusters and empowerment of partners beyond clusters, so that they can trust us. Next slide, please. And then it was about what? So green, digital, and resilience. And then we have how, and how usually the main things: skills, funding, technology. So for skills, crises have created skills mismatches and shortages. We know it. It's still in many areas in Europe. There is lack of qualified people. So, but now actually, what are barriers? The more and more people need to be multitasking, and vocational training is extremely important. Then we have this tendency that we have difficulty in companies to retain knowledge and skilled staff, and difficulty in prioritizing skills. Very often companies are very much concentrating on hard skills, but the soft skills are very important, particularly for the whole economy as such, in order to have flexibility of employment. What could help? Again, closer collaboration, long-term partnerships between academia and business, agreements that can help in changing very quickly the curricula of universities, practical education, internships in companies, or stage for companies in universities, and consistent long-term lifelong learning set up at the regional level. Next slide, please. Funding. There's, funding is needed. The state aid rule 10-year was mentioned. There was an applause that we as a commission should change it. This is something that we can still, I think, we will follow up. This is an issue for many regions. Main barriers, of course, lack of financial resources, funding stability, but as well, it's not only complex funding, but you need to have a certain legal basis in order to get funding. You know, so this liability on the basis of which you can, for example, have loans or guarantees. More cascade funding for SMEs through cluster organizations was called for. Next slide, please. By the way, funding was the most attended session, but the other one also are extremely equally important: technology. And again, here it comes in line with what was mentioned in digital: lack of technical knowledge, traditional mindset, very conservative companies, conservative banking system to finance the conservative mindset of company. It's everything which you could say about the change management, where technology has issues, barriers, but what could help: experimentation, test before invest hubs, and innovation labs, engaging target groups, focus groups. And I think, again, something that we've been preaching already: open innovation, output-driven innovation and research which can really have possibilities to be applied in business. So this an increased cascade funding. We will work, higher budget per ticket in what we can have. Of course. Next slide, please. And this was the collective intelligence gathering. Then we have the next day, parallel sessions, and I will go now very quickly. 6 sessions on meta clusters, and here is something I'm fascinated with. This is something that we are really. It's a higher level of organizational structures of the clusters. If we are able to connect the nodes at EU level, then we build the scale and scope which can be competitive globally. And this is the role which we can play. We are starting with Euroclusters. There's Interregional Innovation Investment funded by ERDF, meta clusters as well for researchers. This is a concept which needs to be further developed, and I believe the Mercedes Delgado has a very good idea how to move it forward. So basically, the value chains we want to secure help with the help of clusters. Next slide, please. The other thing is creating shared value through clusters. This is something which is win-win for public and private, that clusters as well are creating the social and economic value, not only business value. And then examples we're giving. With very much, I need to mention Catalonia, which is always very much in vanguard of this. Next slide, please. Then we have the EU Defense, Health, Energy, and Economic Security with our colleagues from DG Reform on the security requires regulatory, institutional, organizational reforms. This is what is happening right now in raw materials, energy, cybersecurity. But most of, I think the message, again, I want to repeat: preparedness, mitigation, contingency plans at each cluster. This would be very wishful. Next slide, please. Then we have boosting EU clusters competitiveness through internationalization. This was on the basis of Global South, and here what the main message is that what clusters are very much interested is business missions and support to identify local partners. Very often in these places there is a partner, trusted partner needed, and this missions, international matchmakings helps, and ensuring what is the issue is ensuring continuity after these international activities, still with public funding. Next slide, please. Developing a successful cluster business model, it was very clear there's no one-size-fits-all solution. It depends on the region, depends on the cluster, depends on many different factors. there were different cases showed. We had also the example from Iceland and Canada. Next slide, please. And then last but not least, the session on bolstering startup and scale-ups with practitioners as well, the ones who do. And here, again, clusters create this ecosystem environment where the startups should be growing. And here, everyone was saying that in US it's easier than in the EU. But I think even if we have this fantastic environment creating the vibe, there is still then later, even if you have new startups, the scale-ups are actually, because of the fragmentation of funding in the EU, they are going to the US in order to have money for scale-up, or funding investors who can do it, who are more or less risk averse, more tempted to go for more risky projects. This is very much quickly an overview. Of course, we will have all presentations of the sessions, recordings of some sessions on our websites on the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. And there's wealth of information, knowledge, how, as Mariela said, we will as well use it here inside the Commission to talk to our colleagues in respective fields. And yeah, I think that's it shortly, as I try to be as quick as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marek. That was quite an extensive overview, and thank you so much for that. I'm sure those who have not attended now have a better and better idea of what was going on during the conference last week. And thank you those who are sharing their insights already in the chat. Keep doing that. We will be able to also speak live should anyone wish to, but that will happen a bit later. Before we delve into the panel debate, let's hear some more voices from the conference.
Listen, this event is really an occasion to integrate clusters community across Europe, an occasion also for them to really exchange the experience, to see it more in a policy context of, the big issues, industrial policy of the Union, green and digital transformation, resilience. And then there is this very practical part of this event, which is the matchmaking.
So we're moving into a new phase of industrial policy, but how and where? This is where clusters come in. Clusters can help us understand where the locations are in which these investments can give the best returns. And cluster organizations can help to align different types of policy instruments, from innovation to skills to infrastructure to regulation, to make sure that the sums of money we're investing are actually well spent and achieve the type of outcomes that we're looking for.
To our colleagues, the agencies for innovations of other regions in the EU, I would advise to work together with the clusters and to see them as genuine partners.
This transition to more innovative industrial ecosystems is really based on clusters work. We are supporting also the priorities of the Commission to put that in place for the stakeholders of the sector.
The support of mainly SMEs and enhancing this international networking both within Europe and also beyond the borders of Europe.
And as a cluster, we are very good in bridging all those different stakes from universities, from the governments, from the companies, and we are able to bring them together and create a common view on all those different aspects that are concerned with energy transition.
We empower sharing between our companies, sharing knowledges, sharing projects, sharing clients, and build this on the basis of trust.
We support them in digitalization, in application of technology on different ecosystems.
On a lot of aspects, funding, talent, technology, community, markets.
We're studying to be cluster management because, as Christian Kettel said today, cluster is our future.
So that was more voices from the conference. Thank you for that. The voice of clusters are the future. That was one important thought. Increased awareness and recognition of clusters' role in the industrial agenda was something that Mariela has mentioned. And also Marek did emphasize that clusters are at the core of Europe's industrial agenda. This was one underlining thought, but there was also an idea spreading, also expressed by Christian Kettles, that clusters do need to be more known as well. That ways to achieve that is we need to better connect local dynamism with what's happening on EU and national level is something that Christian Kettle said, that also, as Marek has pointed out, we need to become more strategic, have strategic dialogue. But that was the idea that I also took as a takeaway, that clusters themselves are very well known in the cluster community, and there is more visibility needed too, and in general, more collaboration on all levels, academia and business, local dynamism, as I said, to be connected with what's going on the national level, more collaboration among clusters and companies needed. I think, at least from my perspective, that was one underlying thought as well during those 2 days. Funding was something that attracted everybody's attention, and I personally was pleasantly surprised that film clusters, for example, were there, not just companies that have to do with food, water technologies, production. So these are, I would say, this is something that I have taken away from the conference, and I will be very happy to hear some more ideas, to hear from clusters and see if this is something that they would agree on, if this is something they would want to elaborate on and have ideas how to solve those issues, the ones that Marek has so extensively and so nicely recapped. And I would like to now move on to the debate and present and introduce to you Project Manager Internalization at Mobile Heights, Carolina Garcés, also Energy Cluster Denmark, CEO of it, Glenda Napier, is with us. General Director at Agri-Food Lithuania, Kristina Šermukšnytė Alešūnienė, and also a Cluster Project Manager at ProPlast Italy, Susanna Remotti. Thank you everybody for joining. And just as an opening, because time is running out, could you everybody please say a couple of words about your cluster, and then straight move to your takeaways from the cluster conference. Let's start with you, Carolina. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for this invitation. My name is Carolina Garcés. I have two main hats. I am a project manager for innovation and internationalization at Mobile Heights, an IT cluster located in the south of Sweden. We are also leading the initiative of the National Association of Swedish Clusters. We have 24 cluster organizations, so don't hesitate to contact me if you want to create partnerships with Sweden. Shall I continue with my takeaways? Shall we do a presentation of everybody?
Yes, yes. Let's take 2 minutes for main takeaways that you have brought from the conference.
Yeah, I would say one of the main things for us, because we went with the whole team, and as you know, not everybody's working with project management and development. We have economists, we have communicators, and the feedback that I got from them is this sense of belonging, coming to this very strong community that makes you feel that you belong to something bigger. Sometimes you stay in, projects at the regional level, sometimes at the national level, but coming there and understanding that there is a lot of people working for this, priority, European priorities, European strategy, made the whole thing different. So for us, that was very important. The second thing, and I would agree both with Antonio, with Marek, you also pointed out the awareness. The clusters are there. We are working. The companies use us in different ways. The policymakers also use us. However, we still, and depending on the maturity of the clusters, in the case of Sweden, less mature than the ones that you have in Spain, for example, or France, where they are bigger. We are still trying to show or to create awareness of what is our role, how we complement other innovation actors. So I think these kind of opportunities to have policymakers hearing, what is it, how we can be the voice for the industry, which role do we play? Because we have different areas and it could be very broad. The third very important takeaway would be like we need to create strategies. I think like when we are regional clusters, we become blind in some point. We can help at the regional level, but we need someone that coordinates the effort at national level. I do believe that could be the role of the meta clusters, both national associations or depending on the sectors, and someone has to coordinate at the European level so we are not blind and we can create stronger EU priorities and strategies.
Thank you so much, right and clear. So 3 takeaways: sense of belonging, awareness, creating awareness of the role of clusters, and also strategies, someone to coordinate the effort, meta clusters, possibly. Thank you so much, Carolina. We move on to Glenda now, and could you introduce yourself briefly and your main takeaways? Thank you so much.
Yes. My name is Glenda Napier, and I'm CEO of Energy Cluster Denmark. We are the cluster organization for the entire energy sector in Denmark, covering everything from energy production, storage technologies, infrastructure, sector coupling, etc. I think it was a fantastic event. I took away, I have 3 takeaways, but before that, I think what the impression we got at the day was that in Europe, clusters are definitely heroes. I think I took some numbers and I think I wrote down that there are 1,600 clusters in Europe, helping more than 100,000 companies and 20 million jobs. I mean, this is impressive, and I think we should definitely also use these numbers a little bit more. But my 3 takeaways are, yes, I agree. It was said very clearly that we need to be more visible, because our role as a cluster organization is often quite invisible, and we should be, because we are just a facilitating partner. But I think that we should be much more outspoken about the results we create. And here, in particular, I think I'm thinking about the new technological solutions we help facilitate with partners. I think clusters in general should communicate much more clearly around results, and in particularly not just having made somebody, but actually having facilitated the development of new technological solution in whatever area we work in. I think also the second takeaway for me was that there was, yes, a lot of positive talk about mega clusters. It was a lot on the agenda, and it is also quite used already in cluster programs across Europe. I think I would like to add that I think mega clusters, I would like to see mega clusters also involve within the same industry. It doesn't have to be across different industries. For instance, in my perspective, I think it would be interesting to have maybe one mega energy cluster across Europe, uniting the energy efforts and the energy clusters, pushing the companies, because we're probably working with a lot of the same companies. Why not do more in that perspective within one industry? And then finally, the third one, and maybe not the least important, is the state aid Article 27. I was in the room where there was discussion around the financing of the clusters as we move forward. And I think a clear obstacle for long-term public funding to clusters is the Article 27 that puts a limit to public funding to clusters. It should not be more than 10 years. And I think my suggestion is that we stand together as clusters across Europe, and we try and address this together. And I think the more the merrier, the more that we can align and join forces around addressing this Article 27 right now to the Commission, I think the better. So that's my suggestion. I think, again, I was there. It was a fantastic event. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for attending the event and sharing your insights here. And thank you for structuring them so well. 3 points. This is what I brought from the conference. This is what I deliver to you. This makes everybody, I think, easier. It makes it for everybody easier to understand and hear the main points that you're delivering. Thank you so much. And we will move on to Kristina, Agri-Food Lithuania. Kristina, thank you as well for being here with us this morning.
Well, good morning to everyone. It's very nice to see the same ones who participated in the clusters conference and of course the ones who couldn't attend. First of all, a little bit about myself. I am Vice President for European Clusters Alliance, and I'm also CEO Cluster Manager for the Agri-Food Lithuania cluster. And probably even though I come from agri-food sector, my cluster could not be more than a good example of cross-collaboration, cross-sectorial collaboration. And that was what I have noticed during the European Cluster Conference. What we have talked a lot, the foundation of all is for the collaboration and being seen. And coming to that, new roles of the clusters are emerging and very strongly. So I could not stress more again what was mentioned already by Mariela and what was mentioned by Marek, that Commissioner Breton has said very clearly, clusters are at the core of industrial policy agenda. So let's remember that, because in many cases, I think we act very modest. And this conference, particularly because I've been participating in already many events for the clusters, but this particular conference underlined that our community is not only very big, but is very strong. And it's really making the impact. It's really making changes for the greener, for the more resilient Europe, for and helping with the transition in different sectors. So again, as an underline, collaboration comes in the first place. Another important and very interesting fact was that's a knowledge sharing. So it's not anymore about direct only collaboration, but I have had many discussions on the point that we have older clusters with huge experience already who have been on the market for many, many years. And then we have those brand new, in many cases in creative industries that even Živile has mentioned about, who come totally in different approaches, who come with totally different business models. So in this case, it's very important that we clusters community, we share this knowledge between us and create new business models, create new types of collaboration, see and open new opportunities. Another very important fact, argument, which was already mentioned many times today, but it's very important that we are not being seen enough. What is meant by that? If we would look at many different initiatives, starting from European digital innovation hubs, going to regional innovation valleys, or smart villages, startup villages, and you name it, you would find clusters at the core of those initiatives. And just, I don't see why, again, we act so modest and we do not bring our impact, our actual work in front to be seen. So this is very important. And today, the ones who are participating, let's start talking, let's have this voice. Another idea comes to my mind, maybe we still need, to find this common language between our member states, different member states clusters. So about this franca lingua, when I talk about finding this common language and talking in one language together. Another very important thing is it has been mentioned that even though we find cluster policies already in 14 member states, 13 don't have cluster policies at all. So again, I turn to all the cluster managers, and it is very important to keep the dialogue between governments, between policymakers on the national level also, in order to have these policies implemented, because without the policy, again, that could be also a very good argument why in many cases clusters, even though acting at the core of different big initiatives making impact, are not being seen. So that's where the cluster managers come intact. Again, very important fact is, I've mentioned during my panel discussion on the new roles of the clusters as an investment powerhouse coming role, that managers, if clusters are the core of an industrial policy agenda, so managers are the core of the clusters. What I mean by that, if you fly in the plane and something happens, accident happens, plane goes into some kind of incident, so you have this, when do you put the oxygen mask on who? On yourself. You need to put the oxygen mask on yourself. So we need to understand that in order to continue with the strong community, with the developing clusters, creating meta clusters, having even more impact and bringing more value, creating more value for the single market, we need to have at the core very strong cluster management. So it's again, if we act as a community, if we see which points could be improved, what kind of support we need in order to have very strong cluster managers, we can act together. And the last, but not least, I would also agree with what just Glenda mentioned about Article 27. I have had very just recent experience on our national level when we have had a special proposal actually for developing clusters, which was meant for the mature clusters. So it already by the definition means that those clusters should have been strong in order to get the support with funding from on the national level. But the Article 27 predicted clusters which have been longer on the market than 10 years from getting overall the support. So that's, if everyone sees the challenge here, probably we need to unite and talk more on those on those challenges, how it could be solved. But overall, I have never seen, being already quite some years in the clusters community, I have never seen such underlying and such stressing of the importance of the clusters overall for the European economy. So this is very important, and since we are at the core, so we need to continue, and this is the moment where we step in even stronger and united, and in the order to collaborate more. Just another thing, I was approached many times during the conference, and many new managers were asking me, so where do we start? If we are just the new cluster, or we just we want to create the cluster. So my suggestion, first of all, please register for a European cluster collaboration platform. This is the place to be. This is the first point when you will be with all them going on events, with all them knowledge, everything is in one place. So it's gonna be your starting point. And again, I would say then try to collaborate more, try to join European Clusters Alliance or your national cluster alliances. And this is very important to have in order to have one common voice, speaking together on the challenges that matter and creating new value.
Thank you so much, Christina. And I can see that many participants are asking if the slides will be available from today's session, and that's going back to the Commission presentation. So yes, I will just say it now. The slides from today's session will be published on the ECCP afterwards, including also the very webinar itself with all of the wonderful remarks from everyone. Thank you so much for sharing. Christina, thank you so much for this explicit recap from your perspective. Let's hear now from Susanna Remonte, who is with us as well, and who will probably either agree or disagree that Article 27 is something to be discussed in greater detail. The floor is yours now.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me today. My name is Susanna Remotti. I'm a cluster project manager from ProPlast, located in Alessandria, Italy. We are a cluster in a technology center focused on polymers and composite sectors. We try to integrate industrial and academic worlds, and we are recognized by the Piedmont region as a regional cluster. So the main takeaways I came from the conference, of course, in this sense, the importance of the meta cluster. I think that the meta clusters are the future. We are part of the meta cluster in the Piedmont region, created 2 years ago. And I think that the collaboration between clusters of different sectors is very important, because companies need to open the possibilities of their networks and to create a new collaborations between them. So we can help our companies, we can help the universities that can be part of the clusters, the associations, the vet centers. So we can help them to be part a new network of possibilities, and to change in this sense the industrial environment, because we collaborate with cross-industrial sectors and ecosystems is very important. Another main takeaways for me was the skills. In the session of the skills, we can talk about the new jobs, the new possibilities for companies to have a perspective related to these new jobs. And I think this was a key point of the green transition, because the green transition needs to new possibilities to create upskill and reskills new workers. And for me and for our clusters and for our sectors is very important to connect companies and connect academia. So.
Thank you so much. And would you then agree also, Susanna, that what cluster should work on in the long term is also visibility? Yes. Is that something that you relate to?
Yes, yes. I think that in the long term, you can do a lot. You can work, you can create working groups. You can create, in this sense, the cluster collaboration platform and the conference was very important, because we can share with the other clusters our ideas, our possibilities, and our solutions, and our common problems in the long term. For example, in the we all express inside these working groups the problems related to members' engagement and members' maintenance. These was two problems very repeated in our working groups. I remember when I participated in the Cluster Booster Academy, for example. The issues were, and these points were a very important topic. In the future, I think we have to discuss about the new markets and the new rules, and how you can engage members in these markets, how you can communicate, because we have, as I said before, Christina, cluster manager have the possibility and the capacity to look beyond the needs. We need to communicate to members, to our members, to the companies in general of our territory. We have to communicate that they can be part of the clusters, and this is an added value for them. So in the long term, we have to work on this. And in the short, in the long term, we have to work on this.
Thank you, Susanna. There are questions coming in. Mostly they are related to the material from this webinar, so which I'm really excited about. That means that people want to have a greater look at those conclusions and insights and do something about them. So thank you for that. There is a comment about MetaCluster industry specific comments. This is already done by some of the S3 partnerships Verle is saying, and I think this is maybe commenting on what Glenda was referring to. If I remember correctly, she was saying that there was a lot of positive talk on mega clusters, and it doesn't have to be across different industries. She said one energy cluster across Europe was her idea. So someone is saying that this is already done by some of the S3 partnerships. This is a comment, and thank you for that. If you want to speak out loud, do that too. But time is really running out, and one really important question to be asked to all of you, and I'll go one round again to ask you what you are going to do specifically about these, these takeaways. What actions, what kind of actions you specifically will take now based on the takeaways that you have yourself presented? If you could do it in a sentence or two, that would be lovely. And we will again start with Carolina.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is two sides of the same coin. On the one hand, I have talked that we need to create stronger structures where we create shared strategies. And with this, I mean that we need to start creating tools, methods that allow us to take the research, the same information, to bring it up to the policymakers. So there we need some kind of coordination. Again, I think we can use meta clusters. We need to create a strategy for that. But on the other side, cluster organizations, we need to take also responsibility of our role on a European level. With this, I mean that we cannot work only with projects. We gather a lot of data, 3 years project, 2 years project, and then that dies. So we need to be able to be a little bit more sustainable. It could be about funding, but it could be also about creating services. We need to be able to create business models that work for us. Of course, all clusters are different, but we need to be more sustainable and more independent on funding, public funding. I think we need to learn from what is being done, analyze what went well, multiply that by creating knowledge structures and governance models, but also identify what went wrong and fix and improve. We need to understand also which role do we play in the innovation ecosystems, in our innovation ecosystem, but also at the European level, avoid double work, and also complement strengths instead to compete with other innovation actors. So I think it's very important to start building partnerships with other actors to leverage resources and knowledge at local, regional, and European level. So I think, and I do agree with what Christina said, like now we have been a lot talking about cascade funding, very good, it works for companies. Now we found something that works, so we can continue doing that. But let's also work on the cluster, not only for cluster managers, for the whole cluster team. We need to build capabilities and to be more strategic on those.
Thank you. And Olga is saying it was a very valuable event, and the energy cluster community is very strong. Intangible value of relations is difficult to overestimate. Thank you from Ukraine, she says. And this collaboration, I think, is in each of the presentations. And I want to then ask Glenda what your next actions will be. Will it also be building partnerships? And if yes, what specific partnerships are you planning to build?
So sorry I can't put the camera on, but we will continue working with partnership, of course. I think what we will continue doing is we will continue working with the very large portfolio of technology projects, because I think in the end, talking about results, we need to create results that societies can actually implement. And for us, it's about technology partnerships. It's about creating technologies, new technologies together. So that we will continue to push, and it will be a lot of national efforts, but we also seek international and European collaboration within the energy area. So anybody who would like to discuss this, please reach out. Now, I think a partnership I would like to push here is also, I would like to suggest that the clusters, really the 1,600 clusters across Europe, that we try and join forces in terms of the state aid Article 27. This partnership, I think, will be unique to kind of solve or at least address in a common way what are the issues, what are the problems if there will be no more public funding allowed to clusters after 10 years of operation. I think this is a problem that we should try and address together, and I would really invite for a partnership around this, and maybe EUCC could play a role here. Maybe EUCC could be the platform for gathering clusters in a joint effort to address this to the Commission and maybe even the Parliament. Somebody should really do something about this Article 27. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Christina, what about your further actions?
I'm going to reflect right away on Glenda's proposal. Everything is done by people. So it's not about ECCP. ECCP, by the way, is the initiative coming from European Commission and then, you know, uniting all the communities and clusters. But please, Glenda, be the beacon and start this initiative, because I've seen already somebody asked at the in the comments how to join this initiative and act together. So, and we will join and then we can proceed with that. And to continue on that, again, I will stress that it's all about the people. And in order to act further and work together and have strong managers, have strong teams for the clusters, have the new business models emerging. So we need to collaborate and have also the possibilities, the opportunities for those teams to be developed and to really get the good foundation with what to work with. And it has been even as a emerging as a little joke during European Clusters Conference. What do we need in order for the clusters, you know, to become to take new roles, to become investment powerhouse, for example, to implement the new business models, that we need Norbert or Norbertas, that we need a person. So everything starts from the person, and this is very important to remember. And if we want to achieve the common collaboration, it's again about working together. And for me, I would stress once again, there are two sides, as Carolina said. There is national level and then there is EU level. So it's very important that clusters work on both sides. It's not only, you know, to be active on EU level or not only to be active on national level. So it's a hard work, it's a lot of work, but that is how the actual impact is being achieved. There is no other way. It's all about acting together.
Thank you, Christina, and thank you for this Norbert metaphor, because for those who have not attended the conference, they might not get this inside joke, but what was going on during the Slido comments, there were a lot of Slido polls. The name of Norbert was appearing from time to time for no reason. And in the beginning, I thought maybe it was some kind of an EU funding program that everyone was referring to. And I started Googling it and I didn't see anything. And then in the end, everybody got interested into who Norbert was. And at the very end, someone raised their hand and said, I am Norbert. And I still didn't really quite get whether it was the exact Norbert who was always putting his name everywhere. But now you connected, Christina, this in such a really nice way to say that we all need a Norbert, we need a person, because everything starts with a person. This is really brilliant. Thank you for this. Susanna, would you have a final comment?
I guess that the word of this conference could be metacluster. We have to create more and more collaboration and partnerships. All of the Europe, we are part of one metacluster, regional metacluster, but we can create it at national and European level. To do that, we need policies. We need policies and we need some fundings, for example. So I think that I can summarize my presentation in this sense. Metaclusters is the future for us.
Okay, when you say we need funding, there are two final questions that I will read out, and I think address them to Marek, I will start finalizing this very super vibrant and interesting session. Marek, there is a question on financing or reimbursements to participate in-person events of European Cluster Collaboration Platform, for instance, conferences and matchmaking events. So basically, someone is saying if there are funds that would help them come and attend cluster conferences, cover expenses or whatnot. So this is just one logistical question. And there was another one from Marta, who is saying, what will be the DG Grow ASMEA answer to all these inputs collected from clusters during the ECC 24, your clusters and funding sessions, for example? What concrete support we as clusters can expect from the European Commission authorities? So two funding related questions. Marek, over to you.
The first is very technical. It's about the ECCP. ECCP, European Cluster Collaboration Platform, is a service contract we have as a European Commission with a consortium. It's not a grant like Enterprise Europe Network. And an Enterprise Europe Network, actually, someone said that the Enterprise Europe Network, they had people as many as we had at the cluster conference. But the thing is that the European Cluster Conference, nobody was reimbursing. So we are not reimbursing for coming for European Cluster Collaboration Platform. They might have different sources for this. Usually we don't, unless this is Cluster Booster Academy, or sometimes C2 Lab or speakers for clusters mid regions. But generally we don't. But this is a technical question, and then for the more important, exactly the good question, what we do with all this wealth of first of all, look at the moment where we are. We are just before the European elections, and we are just before launching the new European Commission as a result of the European elections. So we are at the moment when there will be new dynamics being built. So this whole conference is feeding into our reflections at the EU, and as well our briefings for hierarchy and what clusters can or should do. This is one thing. The other thing is internally as well. We have some different elements. We can reach out to our colleagues, be it on green from DG Environment, being on digital from DG Connect, be it on defense with DG Defis. So here internally, it gives us quite a good material to reach out and then further elaborate on specific topics. You are mentioning state aid issue. This is a question with DG Comp. It's not that straightforward, but I see it more and more is this idea coming. So as well, this is the inspiration for further cluster talks going inside in deeper. Someone raised here social economic clusters. I think the specific session on social economic clusters, which are, and we are still not that visible, very important actually, and more interesting to discuss it. So we have plenty of different elements which we can right now pick up and need to find priorities. But as said, it will be as well depending very much on the priorities which will be set up after the elections of the European Parliament and with the new commissioner coming. So we have this main, which I don't think it will change, the green transition, digital transition, and resilience building. I don't think it is something to change, but as elements and what emphasis we need to put on, it will depend on the new setup. Definitely as well, this is something which gives us an input for the new multi-annual financial framework discussions, financing instruments. As I said, Euroclusters, this knowledge, first, very tangible, will be new Eurocluster core. And then we will modify it according to the lessons taken. This is one, and another I see more and more very much calls for helping the cluster managers, clusters as such, clusters to empower clusters, to coach clusters, but as well, to coach and the policymakers on clusters, in the sense in public authorities, that they realize the potential of cluster. But it's not only, it's at each level, in each level, in the European Union, from MEPs, Council, European Council, Council of European Union, in the Commission as well, national levels, in regional administrations, in everywhere. This is the work to be done. And we shouldn't take for granted that people read Porter. It's not the case. So they still, we need to, there's lots of work to be done at different layers in different aspects. There's so much wealth of this, which was so, Julia, because we are running out of time, I just wanted to say big thank you to you, to all of you, because you make it a success. These interactions, your participation, all speakers, the preparation for this community make it success. We were just making it, gluing it, but without the engagement, the vibe, the energy vibe, and which is there, this wouldn't happen. And it's genuine, it's real, it's true. It's not because you are getting funding, it's because you have things to do, and this is fantastic. And this is, in my view, the essence of the European integration and of the European Union. So once again, to all of you, thank you to all my colleagues who have worked with me and helped me. And I think we will continue. We have now good ground. In June next year, there is no cluster conference because we do it every 2 years, but there will be industry days, and there will be the Polish presidency in the first half of next year. The industry days will be in Poland, in Rzeszów, in June, and I think the cluster community should already prepare for this, and we can start. We are starting already working on this. So thank you very much, and I pass over to you, Julia.
Thank you so much, Marek. And as you said, we are running out of time, but I'm glad to hear that there's more material for further clusters talks and lots of room to develop new partnerships and collaboration as well. And the visibility aspect as well, that basically everyone has raised, that clusters, as Christina said, are too modest and they have to spread word about themselves in a bigger way, and they should do it, and everyone has agreed. So let's keep that in mind as well, because clusters themselves want to be more visible. And thank you everybody for your insights. Thank you for your takeaways. I would say it was a very interactive and vibrant and really useful discussion and engaging. And for those who have not participated, this is definitely a sign that you should participate in 2 years, or you should participate in all of these other events that are taking place in between. I will now give the word back to Nina before we go, who will briefly say a word or two or three on funding opportunities. Nina, the floor is yours now again.
Many thanks to everybody. Very insightful and a very good energy indeed drawn from the cluster conference. Marek mentioned the Enterprise Europe Network. Indeed, there's a call open for the selection of the consortia to make up the network from July 2025 until the end of 2028. The Enterprise Europe Network, as probably many of you know, provides business support and advisory service, particularly to SMEs, by offering information, feedback, partnering services, and transfer services related to innovation, technology, and knowledge, as well as facilitate the participation in other funding opportunities in the Single Market Program or Horizon Europe, for example. And activities to be funded are the provision of these value-added services to the clients, promotion of the network and communication, the network development and capacity building, coordination and quality management, and the overall project management for the EEN. There are multiple cutoffs, but the first deadline is the 19th of September. It's under the Single Market Program, this grant, so have a look on the EU Funding and Tenders portal via the link in the chat, where you find all the details on this call for the Enterprise Europe Network. We had also participants from Ukraine, so let me also point out the EU-Ukraine Cluster Partnership Program, which is an open call to support the Ukrainian business integration into EU value chains and the development of cooperation projects and partnerships between the EU and Ukrainian clusters and business network organizations. Basically, the idea is to establish new cluster partnerships that address value chain linkages, as well as fostering cluster capacity building and the professionalization of the support for both EU and Ukrainian SMEs. Deadline for this call is the 4th of June. It's also under the Single Market Program with the topic ID that you see here in the screen and the link that you have in the chat. Expanding academia enterprise collaboration, also a topic that was mentioned. There's a call open under Horizon with a deadline of the 19th of September, where we are looking at a call that wants to have as results an improved integration of research organizations, higher education institutions, vocational schools, and similar organizations into Europe's innovation ecosystems to improve the flow of knowledge, skills, and talents between the different entities, and to help improve the skills of all involved ecosystem actors to increase Europe's innovation potential, as well as, of course, enhance availability of local talents, as well as entrepreneurial activities, as to other outputs mentioned in the call. So if you're interested in working on this, have a look as well at the call details published under the link in the chat for the Funding and Tenders portal. And last but not least, we talked about digital transition as well. There's a call to support national, regional, and local authorities across Europe to prepare for the transition towards climate neutrality within cities. So this is about creating networks and creating preparedness and capacity to engage in the city's transition towards climate neutrality, identify what are the strategic and country-specific challenges and barriers, and to address them by enhancing synergies also with R&I, communities, and relevant initiatives and other partnerships. This is a call with a deadline of the 5th of September under the Horizon Action grant published as well on the EU Funding and Tenders portal. And let me remind you of the calls from the Euroclusters that are currently open for SMEs. Euroclusters were also, of course, a topic that was already mentioned several times. There are constantly new calls opening. For example, we had a new call from the Eurocluster eBoost for mobility schemes with deadlines until the end of the month. There are calls open with different opportunities for SMEs across the industrial ecosystems. We're looking at energy, we're looking at water solutions, mobility, the creative and cultural industries, manufacturing, tourism, and if I go to the next slide, for also polymer recycling, the energy-intensive industries, lighting. So a lot of opportunities where Eurocluster members can get direct support from the Euroclusters, and all the calls are published on the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. So have a look there at concrete opportunities that you can offer via SME members. And with that, I close and give it to you.
Thank you, Nina. And people are connecting now to other meetings. So we have gone a bit over time, but I do remind you to register for the next talks, EU Biotechnology and Biomanufacturing Initiative on the 29th of May, and more to come. The links, you will find them in the chat. If you haven't done so, do register and continue discussions on the European Cluster Collaboration Platform on LinkedIn and other social networks. So do that. Do use the ECCP hashtag as well when you do it, and do spread the word, share in the news, and let's make clusters more visible. EU Clusters Talks is another hashtag that may be handy for anything that you post on social media. We would be we would appreciate that very much. So do visit the ECCP website, do follow the ECCP on social media. And I think this will nearly be it. Do run to your other meetings. Have a good rest of the day. Do continue registering and attending cluster talks. And thank you so much, everybody, for participating today. See you next time. Have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.